Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Feel free to write to me at walkwithtak@gmail.com if you have any question regarding to this video or any videos that I have made in the past. If you have any videos that you would like me to make, please let me know. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Recently, a viewer wrote to me and asked me what's the best way to stir-fry pork. I suggest to him perhaps he can try to use my fast cooking system, which stands for flavor chasing, advanced prepping, stir frying, and template-based cooking, to explore the different possibilities that he can cook with pork. The primary advantage of the fast cooking system is the cooking method of stir frying, which is flexible, adaptable, allow you to cook with almost any kinds of food ingredients. The interest in cooking with pork has increased recently, mainly because pork is relatively inexpensive. In comparison to beef, pork is significantly cheaper. This pork loin costs only $2.29 a pound, which is many times cheaper than beef. Here, advanced prepping becomes very valuable because through advanced prepping, you can take this piece of pork loin and divide it into multiple portions. Advanced prepping is very useful for proteins. Through advanced prepping, you can have multiple proteins that you prep in advance and have them stored in the freezer. So this will give you a lot of choices. Advanced prepping also has another advantage is for economic reasons because you can purchase in bulk in large pieces and you can take advantage of any sale that might be available. Now, when I purchase a piece of pork like this, after I bring it back from the supermarket, I always cut it up. I slice it up to the size that is suitable for stir frying. In this case, I cut them into thin pieces. When it comes down to almost any type of meat, the thin slices play a very important role when it comes to stir frying. Not only that, it allows you to cook it much faster, but it will also create a much tender texture. With advanced prepping, I'm able to cut them all at once. This is far more efficient than if I only cut enough for a particular stir-fry dish. And then I freeze them in a portion that I want. I use the meat usually as a condiment rather than a main ingredient. In this case, I freeze them in about an 8-ounce portion in a Ziploc sandwich bag. I freeze the meat in a thin layer. This will maximize the surface area when it comes into contact with water when I try to thaw it out, so I can thaw it out in about 10 minutes. In this dish, I'm going to experiment with broccoli. I have a lot of experience cooking broccoli, particularly with both chicken and beef. So experiment with broccoli is probably a good way for me to examine how the pork will interact with broccoli. I decided the best way for me to cook the broccoli is to blanch them first. And the reason is very simple, because by blanching them, I will have much better control of the texture of the broccoli. To stop cooking the broccoli, I simply transfer them into a bowl of cold water. And sometimes I transfer them into a bowl of ice cold water. And this will allow me to also preserve the texture. Particularly, it keeps the color of the broccoli more vivid. So from that standpoint, it's an advantage. And you can consider this is part of flavor chasing that will allow me to explore the flavor of the pork in combination with other food ingredients. To cook the pork, I use a template that I'm familiar with. The template that I use to cook chicken, beef, and other type of meat. The template is basically a shallow frying template. I first coat the pork with a thin layer of cornstarch. The cornstarch plays two roles. The first role is that the cornstarch will absorb as much moisture as possible from the surface of the pork. And the second role is that the cornstarch will create a thin layer of breading on the surface of the pork. The shallow frying method is actually very similar to deep frying, and this is the reason why I want to coat the pork with cornstarch. And when it comes to frying, moisture is not a good combination with the hot oil, and for this reason, you want to have as little moisture on the surface of the pork as possible. And this is the reason when it comes to shallow frying, no matter what kind of proteins or meat that I'm using, I usually coat them with cornstarch, and this will keep them dry, and the end result is much better. Now, of course, different type of protein would behave differently. In this case, you can see on the surface of the pork, you have quite a bit of charring. And the reason of the charring is due to the fat that are present on the surface of the pork. And this is one thing really interesting about different type of proteins because they behave differently depending on the composition of the fat present on the surface of the protein. And the outcome in frying the pork actually is quite different from chicken. The pork creates far more charring in comparison to chicken. And this is this type of variations. Even though the basic template is the same, you make adjustment accordingly. Nevertheless, it takes very little time to fry the pork because they have been cut into thin slices. And in this case, I fry them a little bit longer to make sure they are cooked evenly as well as completely. Here is a demonstration of the benefit of advanced prepping because through advanced prepping, you can cook pork almost any time that you would like. And next, I add the broccoli to the wok. I have blanched the broccoli in advance. I could have choose other type of vegetables, but in this case, I decided I'm going to use the broccoli because I'm familiar with broccoli in stir frying with chicken, beef, and shrimp. So this will give me the baseline of what the taste is going to be like. I want to know whether the pork will go well with broccoli or not. And the likelihood is that it will. Next, I'm going to season the dish. I'm going to use again something that I'm familiar with, which is a combination of oyster sauce and hoisin sauce. Both of these sauces I have used in other type of dishes. In here, I use a ratio of 2 parts of oyster sauce to 1 part of hoisin sauce. But later on, I might find out that a different ratio might work better, or another type of sauces might be more suitable. This is flavor chasing, an integral part of the fast cooking system. I then create a gravy-like sauce using cornstarch. I create a cornstarch water suspension with 1 part of cornstarch to 2 parts of water. I make adjustment to the consistency of this gravy-like sauce by adding additional water. This will allow me to titrate the consistency of the sauce to the thickness that I want. And so this video demonstrates the principle of using the fast cooking system, how to try out different food ingredients. In this case, using the same template for cooking different type of meat, it can be used to try out the pork. And this will allow you to test how the pork will fit in to different type of food ingredients that you already familiar with. A template-based cooking is a very powerful technique. It will allow you to make adjustment to your cooking approach under different type of circumstances. In this particular case, you can test out how the pork will behave. Now, we all know different food ingredients probably will behave differently under different situations. And in this case, it will give you truly an opportunity to explore new ingredients that otherwise would be impossible. And through this approach, you really don't need to use any recipes because you are familiar with the template and you are familiar with other type of food ingredients that might be similar to this one. For example, a pork, you can make the assumption that is most likely very similar to chicken, but probably quite different from beef because beef and pork has a different texture and you want to achieve them through different type of cooking approach. This video provides a demonstration of how to use the fast cooking system to explore different food ingredients. Because the fast cooking system allows you to make adjustment to a basic template. So once you're familiar with templates, you can use the same template to try out with new ingredients. Like in this case, you can use the template for cooking chicken in the same way as you would using pork. Now, of course, chicken and pork has different characteristics, but the template will allow you to explore them in such a way in trying different type of ingredients to help you to find out their specific characteristics. And once you understand that, you will be able to make adjustment to how you cook. I post a video each day to help you to make home cooking as part of your daily routine using my fast cooking system. This will allow you to make your home cooking practical, efficient, creative, and most importantly, fun. So if you'd like to learn more about my cooking system, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. So keep on cooking, and I will see you tomorrow.